Hey, seventh grade. All right, so jumping into things, we're going to start right away with talking about vocabulary. We have two new vocab words today. We have fatigue and we have evaluate. So, fatigue means extreme tiredness resulting from mental or physical exertion or illness. So, basically, it's just to be really, really, really tired, but it can mean you're really tired from it can be mental tiredness. So like after, a full day of CMAS when you've just been, using your brain so much that your brain is just tired, it's like it's exhausting to think. It can also be that you're super tired from physical exertion. So that could be exercising a lot, dancing a lot, things like that, from moving a whole bunch and then you're super tired. Fatigue can also come from illness. So you know how sometimes when you're sick, like when you're really sick, you just feel tired all day? That's fatigue. So fatigue is just extreme tiredness, and it can come from like being mentally tired, physically tired, or from being sick. All right? Next, we have the word evaluate. Definition here is to judge the value or condition of someone or something in a careful and thoughtful way. Now, we all love judging others, but with evaluation, that can be from judging a person or a thing. So it could be, if I was a judge for, let's say a sport or something, I'd be judging the person on how well they're executing something. I could also judge a thing. So if I'm, like a food critic, I'm judging the thing, which is food. I'm judging the quality and the value of the food. So we have these two vocab words. We have fatigue and we have evaluate. Now, these words and all the other words that we will get this unit are now available on Google Classroom in the flashcards section. So you can get studying on those if you like, take a sneak peek at what's to come. Those are there for you all unit long. Now, to jump into the actual classwork related to vocab, we have a couple questions here, and this is in your classwork. Whoop, up here in the vocab section, as I've labeled for you. We have 3 questions. Describe the way Christopher might evaluate clues collected during his investigation. Okay, so we've already talked about the word evaluate, which is to judge the value or condition of something, but you're doing it in a careful and thoughtful way. So how might Christopher, based off what we know about him, how might he evaluate the clues that he's picking up during his investigation? All right. Also, pay attention. Investigation is in quotes, so it's like, is it an investigation? Is it really? You decide. Next, we have question 2. Why would interacting with people cause Christopher fatigue? Keep in mind, for fatigue, that's extreme tiredness, but it can be from mental, physical, or illness. I want you to think which one of those might be the thing that's causing him fatigue. Like, do you think he's feeling a mental fatigue? Do you think he's feeling a physical exertion fatigue? Or do you think he's feeling an illness type fatigue? All right. Why would interacting with people cause Christopher fatigue? Final question. Explain an activity that causes you fatigue, physical or mental. You're going to get a total of 3 minutes to complete these 3 questions, and away you go. to jump into the next section. So for this one, we are down here in the hook. It says 5 sentences total. That's across the board. So you can do 2 sentences for this one, 3 for this one, 3 or 2, 4 and 1. A lot of options here. First question we're looking at, in what ways are you like Christopher? This can be any number of ways. It can be based off of how he thinks. It can be based off of his interests. It can be any number of things. And then second question, in what ways are you unlike Christopher? Now, I just want to remind us to be in a respectful, environment, speak with respect. And in your examples, be specific. So don't just say like, oh, I like math. Like, okay, but like what about math do you like? Is it the numbers part? Is it the equations part? Like, what is it about it that you like? For the thoughtful portion, try to, really, like, you're talking about yourself. So, get out there, say a lot of things, think about who you actually are as a person, and then think about what you know about who Christopher is as a person. Make some comparisons. And then, of course, being respectful. It's what we do here. So, you'll have 7 minutes to write 5 sentences total. If you did not finish these questions, I recommend you knock the hook out first and then go back and complete the vocab stuff. 7 minutes on the clock. We are in this section in the classwork. Here we go. moving on. We are jumping into this reading. This is on the back of the first page. I'm going to read through it and point out some things as I go. So, as you are reading, what I would like you to do, however, is I want you to annotate for the central idea. This is going to be super important for you later on when we get into the actual classwork. So this was something that was written by the author of The Curious Incident, Mark Haddon. He was writing on the topic of autism and how it relates to his novel. Okay? And this was published on the 16th of July. No, yeah, the 16th of July, 2009. Little British way of writing dates. Okay, here we go. He's talking about his book right now. Remember, you are looking for the central idea. Unsurprisingly, I'm often asked to talk about Asperger's and autism, or to become involved with organizations who work on behalf of people with Asperger's and autism, many of whom do wonderful work. But I always decline, for two reasons. 1. I know very little about the subject. I did no research for Curious Incident, other than photographing the interiors of Swinton and Paddington stations. I'd read Oliver Sacks's essay about Temple Grandin and a handful of newspaper and magazine articles about or by people with Asperger's and autism. I deliberately didn't add to this list. Imagination always trumps research. I thought that if I could make Christopher real to me, then he'd be real to readers. I gave him some rules to live by and some character traits and opinions, all of which I borrowed from people I know, none of whom would be labeled as having a disability. Judging by the reaction, it seems to have worked. A couple things I want to point out to you here is already within the first point of why. So in this article, our author is discussing why he's declining to get involved with organizations who work, to basically represent or stand up for people who have Asperger's and autism. So, just want to put that in mind. Because of this book, people have come to him and gone, hey, do you want to join our organization, be a representative, help raise awareness, all this other stuff? And he has essentially said, no, thank you. And his first reason is listed out here. Let's just look at this first sentence. He knows very little about this topic. And then secondly, he did not do research for this book. All right? The research he did was all about, exteriors. It was about the location. But in regards to neurodivergence, he did not do research. He did read the same article that we read, the one that talked about how, mental health and neurodivergence has made such great progressions over the years, and about that woman who wrote the article, and people were amazed that someone who was neurodivergent even had the ability to write an article, and she was diagnosed with having to be in a institution from age 3 for the rest of her life, but then she ended up becoming this incredible journalist and biologist. So he did read that essay. He did read that. And then he says that he also read some newspaper magazine articles about or written by people who have Asperger's and autism. All right, so he didn't do much research. He basically did as much research as we've done as a class, which is not that much research. It's kind of just a very basic overview. So it's kind of like if I were to ask you, hey, now that you know about Asperger's and autism, write a book with a character who is neurodivergent. So yeah, it kind of seems like a big task when you think about it that way. Now he's saying that he deliberately did not do more research, essentially. In his opinion, was that imagination always trumps research. So, in his mind, he felt as though being imaginative and coming up with things on his own was more important than doing actual research. All right, that's his opinion. He just wanted to make Christopher a real person, and as you can see, he simply created Christopher based off of a bunch of different people that he knew. Took a bunch of their pieces of personality, put it together, and apparently none of them have been labeled with having any sort of neurodivergence. So yeah, let's look at his second reason for not getting involved in certain organizations. 2. Curious Incident is not a book about Asperger's. It's a novel whose central character describes himself as a mathematician with some behavioral difficulties. Indeed, he never uses the word Asperger's or autism. I slightly regret the fact that the word Asperger's was used in the original cover. If anything, it's a novel about difference, about being an outsider, about seeing the world in a surprising and revealing way. It's as much a novel about us as it is about Christopher. We're going to look at the next section. Labels say nothing about a person. They say only how the rest of us categorize that person. Good literature is always about peeling labels off. And treating real people with dignity is always about peeling the labels off. A diagnosis may lead to practical help, but genuinely understanding another human being involves talking and listening to them and finding out what makes them an individual, not what makes them part of a group. So this last line is essentially saying, like, he thinks the best way to understand someone is by looking at who they are individually and not who they are based off of a label, for example. Final paragraph. I passionately believe this, and I've said it repeatedly in many different forms. To become a spokesperson for those with Asperger's or autism, or to present myself as some kind of expert in the field, would completely undermine this, and make me look like a fool into the bargain. I would much rather spend my time writing more novels, standing up for differences, and trying to understand outsiders who see the world in surprising and revealing ways. All right, so with this, we are going to look at the questions. So with these questions, I'm going to break them down for you. Question 1, what is the main claim or argument of this post? So what's the main point that our author is trying to say? What is the main point? Now, I'm going to give you a freebie. The main point is not about him turning down work. It's not about him turning down joining up with these organizations. That is not the main point. So, if that's what you were thinking, it is not that. What is the main claim? What's the main argument that he is making in this post? I'm going to give you a minute and a half to do this, and then we're going to continue on to the next bit. Splendid. Looking at question 2, closely reread paragraph 4 and determine the central idea. Paragraph 4, that's this one. What is the central idea of this? I forgot to mention this earlier, sorry. Make sure you're answering in complete sentences. Make sure you have at least one piece of textual evidence per answer. So now you're in question 2. What is the central idea? Once again, we're going to do a minute and a half. Away we go. Looking at question 3. Why, according to Haddon, that's our author, must we be able to see ourselves in Christopher? So why must we have empathy and genuine understanding for Christopher? Why is it important for us to be able to make connections, to be able to try to understand Christopher? I'll give you 2 minutes for this one. Here we go. Okay, so now that you've done this, we're going to jump straight into the just kidding. That's it. No mastery check for you. But I do want to point out your homework, so yeah, you still have homework, but hey, no mastery check. All right, this guy right here, reading pages, hello? Reading pages 48 to 65, you are looking at Christopher's unique perspective. That is it. That's all you have to do. Once again, make sure that you have your name on your classwork. Please, 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 please. I want to give you guys credit for the work that you do. Today, let's do Michael and Serenity and Ramas collecting the classwork. Collect it from everyone, put it in a nice neat pile, nicely hand it to the sub. Make sure that y'all clean up after yourselves in the classroom. Don't leave whatever room you're in a mess. And that is it for the rest of class. Don't be rude to the sub. Sub's choice on what you guys do. I'm cool with you guys simply being cool, calm, and collected and chatting with each other. I'm also cool with you guys reading. I'm going to leave it up to the sub. Don't harass the sub. And with that, be sure to like and subscribe to come into class.